Hello. How's everybody doing? I'm Dash, and we're back. I'm back with Nox again.
We're back with Knox again.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
How you doing? How'd the week treat you?
It was pleasant, pretty damn good. I had some friends from out of town. It was a little bit. Wait, we didn't do one. Yes, we did. We did one last week, but it was right before my friends came. I don't know, man. Time's a blur right now because of all that. There's so much planning involved, but yeah, I
Yeah,
do remember a really good conversation about Final Fantasy last week.
that's right. We had a rather exhaustive discussion of classic Final Fantasies, the 1 through 9, which left us without talking about 10. And when I started playing all the Final Fantasies, when I decided a while ago, I'm gonna play all the Final Fantasies. I only meant 1 through 6, right? Those were
Hmm.
like the classics that I had never done. But then I love 7, have played 7 my whole life, loved it, so I played it, of course, and then was like, you know what? Why stop there? Let's do 8 and 9. I did 8 and 9, and then even ended up moving on to 10 after that. And before I started, I didn't even think that 10 was something I had any interest whatsoever playing in. I went into it expecting it to suck. I kind of thought that, like, at some point, Final Fantasy transitioned into something that I don't like as much, like having played 13, right? It's like, okay, something went off the rails somewhere. And I kind of just assumed it was 10 was the first shitty one. So I wasn't interested in playing it really, but after playing 1 through 9, I was curious enough to give it a shot. How did you come into playing 10?
I came into playing 10 by being a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII, as we have established in the last one. Um, like I said in the last one, I wanted to buy 8 because I was graphically impressed as fuck with it, and then I accidentally bought 7 and accidentally had a great time. So going into 10, I was pretty much I wasn't really too particular, as a kid like I am now. I saw impressive graphics, and the second I saw Titus's water sword, I was like, "That's badass! I love this game."
He's got a cool sword on the cover, yeah.
Can we establish this
Um,
early though? Is it Titus or is it Titus?
so here's the deal. I've heard both, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people argue that it's Titus. I've heard people argue that it's Titus. What I can tell you is that the game has you name him yourself.
True.
He's the one character that you get to name in the game. I named him Titus. So I don't know about you, but
You just hit the
I didn't name him Titus. I named him Titus.
you just went down to the end space and hit OK.
Yeah.
And then bestowed upon him Titus. I did the same
Mm-hmm.
thing actually. I before this episode started, I actually watched the American ad for this game, and in the ad itself, not only do they show really poorly, awful interlaced video of the fucking game in the trailer, like you can see the lines. It's actually kind of brutal. But the American trailer dude actually says Titus, and I was like, that's silly. I'm not calling it that. And
Really?
yeah, and we can use the logic of a GIF is a GIF because the creator says GIF, even though it's wrong. But the creator says Titus here, so whether or not that bothers you is on you. Some people say Titus. I'm gonna go ahead and say the creator's wrong. I don't care what they intended. It's GIF and it's Titus.
Yeah, I mean, my logic this whole time has just been that I named him Titus,
There you
right?
go. What
You
sounds
know,
good to say, That's what I go by.
yeah, I could have named him Papitrius if I wanted, but I didn't. Um, but that kind of thing is interesting though. I got into the habit of saying Samus instead of Samus as far as Metroid goes,
Ah.
and kind of the reason for that is because in Super Smash Bros. Melee, when you pick her as a character, the announcer pretty clearly says Samus. And so I was like, all right, that's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
However, that same announcer also during the title screen of the game shouts Super Smash Bros. Melee.
I
So
hate it. Oh my
so
god.
so that announcer might not be the best source of these things, but hey,
Hmm.
look, it got me into that habit. So yeah, you never know, like, because right, the commercial saying Titus doesn't necessarily mean that the guy that made the character says that that's his name, because they right, like the voice director for that voiceover recording might not have known.
Yeah,
Like that guy didn't make Titus. He's just a voice actor.
hmm. Yeah, I guess you're talking about how we're kind of fighting two opposing forces here. One being damn straight ad copy that's gonna get everything right, or here's a Final Fantasy game, people love it everywhere. Oh shit, I guess we need a commercial for the United States, and throw them like I don't know, maybe $1,000 for the whole budget.
Right,
It
right,
could
yeah.
just be that, and they don't care enough to verify. But I mean, look, big corporations and companies are, they're not one single mindset. They're different people all over the place making different decisions. So I'm sure shit like that slips through the cracks.
Yeah,
It
and
sticks out
like
like a sore thumb though.
yeah, shit happens all the time in games where like different characters will say the names of things differently from each other in the same game, in the actual game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Uh, where
and
where you'll get like little inconsistencies about what things are called and
hmm,
stuff.
yeah, and I think it's what I said about how it just going with what sounds best. That's a great example of Samus. I actually kind of go back and forth between Samus and Samus, but only because I never say the word very commonly because I don't really play Metroid like I should.
Mhm.
But when I hear Samus, it's like, oh, that's especially with the last name. Do you say Aran or Aran?
I say Aaron, I've
Aaron,
always said.
Samus Aran. Interesting.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard that. That's choice C for sure. I was always say
Mm.
Iran, but I mean that's more harsh off the tongue, I guess, than Iran, which kind of goes with Samus, but like I would say Samus Iran. I don't know. It sounds best that way to
Yeah.
me. So
I think I started saying Aaron because it's the least like I don't know. It sounds so Ash Samus Aran,
yeah, it's
like
weird.
it's got this like drawl to it. I feel like that I don't like when you
Well,
emphasize
when
the
you
latter
say it
half
like
of it.
that,
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. Samus Aran.
Iran.
Uh, so yeah, so to me, like it just sounded a little bit more like elegant, I guess, to say
Yeah.
Aaron because it just kind of goes a little bit quicker.
But
But
I guess I
I
don't
don't
want to
know.
get too much stuck on that because I know I will. But yeah, I was a pretty much stickler for the graphics. I saw the graphics of all the cutscenes. I saw the gameplay itself just being essentially what I wanted from 8, but HD, and way prettier graphics than I expected. But I mean, big budget game, SquareSoft or Square Enix, I guess at this time. Not surprising,
It
but
it does say Squaresoft on the cover
oh
and in the
really?
startup on 10. Yep, it's the last one. 10-2
10
says
2.
Square Enix on the cover.
Ah, okay,
Mhm.
interesting.
But yeah, I don't know what that means though as far as like the merger might have happened before it came out though. I'm not actually sure. But yeah, so that's interesting. So you played 10 closer to when it came out. I
Hmm.
played 10 like pretty much exactly 1 year ago.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely like this night's gonna be full of you reminding me of things that I would have never remembered.
Oh, sure.
When I think 10, here's what I think. Pretty gorgeous cutscenes, dealing mostly with water, kind of like a Paradise Island nation. Some dude with a fucking parrot hairdo who's got the best weapon I've ever encountered in Final Fantasy. I don't care what anyone says. A spiked beach ball, being that as your ranged weapon. I was, oh my god, and the satisfying like smack when it hits him. Loved it.
Yeah.
But everyone hates Waka. And I guess I kind of get why if you look at him from the story perspective, because, I don't know, he comes off kind of racist. But
Yeah.
but just purely mechanical wise, I experienced these things, that, and then honestly, probably one of my favorite parts about the game is Blitzball. And that's not speaking a lot about the game, I guess, because Blitzball is not that great a game in it, realistically speaking. But man, I adored the fuck out of it when I played it for the first time. Such that like I actually want to say I never beat 10, but I came very close. And I know I got way more progress into getting all like the skills and techniques from Blitzball, unlocking Eject Shot, going through special quests to unlock like that sweet ass animation where he's just doing the flip and there's like sparkles going everywhere for like a special kick of a fucking water soccer ball. I don't know. I guess I got lost in the concept because the idea that there is a sports arena with a giant, I guess, a somehow either like gravitationally locked sphere of water is where you're going to be playing. And the players just all have been training all their lives to be able to do extreme aerobic activity underwater, holding their breath for like 30 minutes at a time. It's like superpowers.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Blitzball pretty well encapsulates a lot of the experience of Final Fantasy X, which is that like it's so fucking stupid on a surface level, you know, like at surface level, and if when it gets explained to you and you're just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard or seen, but
it's soccer with extra steps.
They they commit to it and pull it off in a way where it just comes off as campy fun, you know? It's not taking itself so seriously or missing the mark in such a way where it's just like bothersome, you know? It's just fun. And yeah, that was what really impressed me about 10. So I started it up kind of expecting to just hate it and for everything to be dumb, you know?
Wow, really?
But instead, everything was dumb, but in a way that I really liked.
Why
you
were
know?
you expecting it to be dumb?
I don't know. Because I thought that, look, the series is gonna get bad at some point, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't know when it's gonna get bad, and I assumed, I don't know, this one's on PS2. So maybe it's this one, right? There's gonna be voice acting, and that kind of thing, and
That's a fair assumption, because like I think 11 came out after. Well, obviously 11 came out after, but like they tried to do the MMO thing for the first time, and I think it really flopped.
Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, I didn't know. I went into it kind of ready for it to suck. I shouldn't say like I totally expected it to, but I was ready for it to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I kind of just do with everything just cuz I don't know. I've been disappointed enough times now where like even when Sekiro was coming out after Bloodborne is like one of the best games ever, right? Even Sekiro coming out, I'm like, it might suck. But then it turned out not to. But just going in with that mentality, though, I think helps. It helps keep your expectations in check, you know. So I get into Final Fantasy X, and yeah, it's like it's really dumb, but like it's got this goofy campiness to it where it's weird and dumb in a way that like I just think was landing really well. We're going into it just being like, I'm just gonna laugh at this game. It worked, right? Like I was laughing at it and having a good time. But that's like what the start of the story was. You know, you got the stupid fucking Blitzball, and like Titus is a dork, you know, and like signing the kids' balls and stuff, and it's playing that fucking during the Blitzball scene at the start with that like, don't you give up on it.
I don't remember this.
You don't remember the fucking metal song that's in the background with like the shitty, with like the harsh vocals and stuff, and I was like, what the hell is this?
I was still a kid, like just fucking enamored with everything going on. It was a sensory overload. I couldn't pinpoint anything.
Well, yeah, one thing that immediately stood out also is that I think that this one has the most seamless transitions from gameplay to FMV yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the transitions into FMV were just a normal camera cut, like all of a sudden it's FMV, so that looked really good. But yeah,
Is it technically FMV?
well, yeah, just not live action, but it's FMV,
Well,
full motion video.
yeah, I guess when I think of FMV, I think of like really shitty, compressed, small resolution enough to have the correct frame rate to be able to render all the colors on screen from like Genesis and like PC Engine and all that stuff. I don't really think of like just a normal like cutscene, I guess.
Well, but it's not a normal cutscene, right? Because it's full motion video.
It's not rendered in the game. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's probably why I was so like crazy. Like, how are these graphics so good?
Yeah, totally. Right. There is a huge difference in FMV from in those generations, right? Like the 16-bit generation, or well, I guess 3DO was 32-bit, right? But anyway, like those old ones where it first became a thing with like Night Trap and stuff. Those looked like absolute garbage,
Power
right?
Rangers.
And then PS1 looked okay, but it was still pretty blocky, especially in like dark scenes and stuff. The compression looked pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But then yeah, PS2 was like, okay, now we're just watching a DVD,
Yeah.
and it looks really, really good. But yeah, so like right away what I thought was just that the story and the characters and stuff, it was all just campy, goofy fun that was stupid, but the battle system I did not expect to be maybe the best of the whole series.
Right.
First of all, back to turn-based. No more ATB, it's truly turn-based again.
Mm-hmm.
And I fucking love that, especially because of like the way that it informs like the moves like delay strike and like that mess with turn order and stuff becomes so much more valuable because you see what they do. Because so it's turn based, but not like the old ones were turn based where you pick everybody's move at once and then everybody goes in sequence per round. Instead, it's just like every character takes their turn, right? The enemy goes, then when it's your character's turn, you get a menu, you pick what they do it, and then it's the next person's turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the side of the screen, there is a list that is, here is the order in which people will get their turns. This is the turn order. Cool. So you actually see shit like here's a move that says that it like delays the enemy's turn for a little bit. And when you highlight them with that move, it changes the turn order on the right side of the screen to show you the exact effect that it's going to have. And I love that. And then the other thing about the battle system, so it's turn-based, great. The other thing is it's got this tag team system where you've got 3 people out at a time, but on anyone's turn, when it's their turn, you can choose to switch them with a character that's not in the battle right now. And that doesn't take any time. It flips to them, now it's their turn, right? So if you don't have your white mage out, but you need like a white magic spell to happen, boom, on whoever's next turn you get, you can just pop the white mage in place of them and cast a spell right away. Oh, it's so good because not only like it's so good for so many reasons. Firstly, it makes the battles feel very versatile where you always have all of your abilities available to you, You're fighting the guy that's weak to this thing, boom, bring that guy in. Here's a guy where maybe we should use magic, bring that guy in. This guy needs someone who's accurate, bring that guy in, You've always got everyone available.
Was that in combat?
It's so good. Say again?
It's not in combat though. You choose your party like out of combat, right?
You choose out of who your I think like you pick who will go into combat at first, but then it's like a tag team. So you can get anyone in the battle.
I was going to say I think I remember enjoying that versatility.
Yeah, cuz you've got your 3 people who are in the battle and then there's 3 or 4, I don't remember, people out of battle. And yeah, you can just tag anyone in at any time that you want.
Gotcha.
Oh, it's so good. Because, yeah, it makes the battles really versatile, where the different characters can have wildly different specialties, and you actually get to use them when they're useful without having to have them in your party when they're not useful all the time. You know what I mean? You always get to use everybody. Also, the other thing that that makes really great is that in every other RPG, there's this weird feeling of like, why am I running around the map as only one person, but then in battle I'm three people, but then in cutscenes all 10 people are here? What's going on with that? You know what I mean?
I guess
In
that has to
Final Fantasy
explain it.
X, the tag team system explains it. Everybody is participating in the battles because you can tag them in at any time. So it feels like your whole group is moving together.
And now
It's
the whole
so
development part, like the whole development team at Square is going, yay, we don't need to make custom cutscenes for every fucking combination of character.
yeah, it's so good. So so yeah, I loved the battle system so much. And then
Mhm.
the other thing I can say is just that it's like, okay, so all of the things are there to set up a really good battle system. The way that they actually have to make it happen though is they need to make you use those mechanics, right? And they do. There's shit like if you steal from a robot enemy, they instantly die because it's like you're dismantling them, you
Mhm.
know? So you can pop Riku in to steal from robots. Awesome. Also makes sense because she's the character that is robot knowledgeable, you know?
Oh,
Or
yeah, she
the
is.
elemental system in the game is really simple, where it's like fire and ice are opposed and water and thunder are opposed. So they are weak to each other, but don't really interact with each other. And there's just a lot of enemies that like, hey, you want to use magic on these guys, so it's very easy to pop your black mage in for that. Or there's a lot of enemies that are very resistant to damage until you armor break them, right? And Auron can armor break dudes. Awesome. There's a lot of flying enemies that are kind of hard to hit, you know. But Waka is really accurate, so you pop him in to hit them.
It's
So
the
like
best when
there
they're just little birds too, because those things just fucking explode.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's just like there are these really great use cases for every character and they use them a lot, you know? So you do kind of swap characters in battle all the time and it's just it feels real good. And then they also use the turn system to do some really cool boss battles. Like there's one boss where you're like on top of the airship and you can call on the pilot of the airship to move away or closer to the boss. So you have to like gauge how long you can be close to the boss until like it starts charging up its big attack, and then you have to look at the turn order and be like, okay, does our pilot move before he moves? Because if he does, then we got to tell him to move us away. But if he doesn't, maybe then we have to use a move that delays the enemy's turn to get it to be to where the pilot gets a turn first. And so yeah, like they kind of give some cool mechanics in the fights that the turn based makes cool as well. Ooh, it's a lot of fun. So yeah.
I think when I was playing the earlier Final Fantasies, I definitely preferred turn based over I guess what the alternative was. Was that Final Fantasy 8 that changed that up?
With sorry, changed what up?
Where you had where you no longer had true turn based combat?
Well, 4 was the first
Oh
one to do
wow, okay.
ATB. Yeah.
Yeah.
4 through 9 all did ATB.
I didn't really know any of the technical terms about it just because I was so new to RPGs in general still. I mean, even after beating 7. It was just like when I played 10, I remember the combat feeling a lot like 7 with improvements. So I was like, oh, I'm right on board with this. This feels right. I feel right at home here.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, I bitched about ATB, especially with 9, but with 7 and 8, I think it still felt pretty turn-based, pretty normally turn-based, even though it was ATB, just because the battles were, like, snappy enough in that one where it wasn't as big of a deal.
And ATB again stands for.
I think it's active time battle.
Active time bat. So it's not like. Is that a distinct difference from real time combat? I guess or.
I think when you say real time combat, I would assume that that means that you have complete control over your character.
Yeah.
You
You
know,
wouldn't just be stuck
because
in a place.
because ATB is kind of unique in that you're still picking all your moves off of a menu. It's just that they're going into a queue that's happening in quote unquote real time or
Yeah.
active time, I guess. You know, it's active.
It's not real time, it's active time, meaning keep your shit up. We'll look what's
Yeah,
happening.
yeah. And then because yeah, so Final Fantasies 4 through 9 did that. Chrono Trigger had that system as well.
Really?
And probably some other stuff too, yeah.
Again, that's another game with uh, I couldn't speak to and knowing any of how the mechanics work or anything like that, but that Chrono Trigger just from start to finish, nothing felt wrong with it. So I guess I didn't have a problem with ATB.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have an issue with it in Chrono Trigger either, because that's another game where just things move along very quickly in that one, so it doesn't really become a problem. But still though, I still would just rather it be like 10, where hey, it's this guy's turn, so just tell him what to do. No pressure,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you're not giving everybody free turns if you think about it for a second. So yeah. So that was 10 for a while for me, where it was like the gameplay is the best that it's been in the series maybe ever as far as the battle system goes. I'm just loving that about it. And then the story is just hilariously stupid and fun.
Well,
However,
it's laid back too. That's why I kind of dug it.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like there was a world. Okay, I know that the story is always that the world is in crisis for Final Fantasy, but in the beginning of the game and all throughout, I guess kind of the middle section, from what I remember, it felt like a chill, let's just adventure kind of thing.
Yeah, so the story, it's one of those games where the main character that you play as sort of isn't really the main character as far as the way that the plot is concerned.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the thing is that there is Yuna, the High Summoner, who is going to stop Sin, right? And the game is all about her pilgrimage over to the place to go defeat Sin. Sin being the big monster bad guy. And so you, Titus, are just her guardian. And there's several other guardians. You're just a group of people protecting her, right? So she's kind of the main character.
That's true.
As far as the story goes. But, it is a lot about Titus though, and also Yuna. If I have a criticism about the game, story-wise, as far as let me just say, I don't like Yuna as a main character. She's kind of she just doesn't have a personality, She's one of those just yeah, let's all fight together, and as long as you guys are here with me, I'll have confidence.
Yeah,
She's like she's like that.
The idealized brainless but completely wholesome lady figure, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good thing you play as Titus and he gets a lot more attention because he is just just a fucking dork.
He's a piece of work too.
Yeah.
With his daddy issues.
Oh my gosh, that's where, oh god, it's just so funny.
Yeah, I love
all
it.
of the cutscenes and shit, the shit that they're doing in the start where man, there's some cutscenes where I swear David Lynch came in to direct them. Where there's this one cutscene where I can't even describe it. But yeah, so Titus has a lot of father issues where he hates his dad, and every time that he thinks or talks to his dad, he has to, I hate you, and his dad is just you're just gonna cry. All you ever do is cry. He's like, I hate you, and it's so fucking dumb, but you're laughing through it, right? However, uh the gameplay is great. So my biggest like issue that I came across in the game early on though is the fact that this is the first Final Fantasy to be extremely linear. This is the first one to not have like the towns. You know, in JRPGs, when you're in town and
Mm-hmm.
you talk to people and then you leave town and now you're on the world map where you run around and get into battles and maybe find a new town or dungeon,
I
right?
specifically remember that kind of stuff existing towards the end of the game.
It does not have it
Huh.
in 10. 10 is a tube. The whole game, you have a little mini map, and most of the places that you're in are just a straight shot, you know. Maybe there's a couple side paths to take and then come back or something.
Hmm.
But you're always in a tube and you're being told exactly where to go to progress and you move linearly and there's no world map. You just go from one place to the next, you know? Like right
Maybe.
now, you're in this place. And once you get to the end of it, now you're in this place, you know? Um, it makes sense, though. It makes sense because you're not on an adventure of sorts. You're not on like a let's just go out in the world and see what we find. No, no, no. You are the guardian of the High Summoner who is on a pilgrimage. She knows where she's going, you know? So it makes sense. But if you're expecting like the classic JRPG experience, this is the first one to be the hallway, you know? Uh, and so that just came as a bit of a surprise. Now later in the game, you do get an airship. You're right that like you get an airship that allows, but it's not an airship that where you actually fly around the world with it. Instead, it pops up a list of all of the places that you can pick. So basically, here's the tube, and here's all the places along the tube, and we can drop you off at any one of them. You know.
It's the warp zone from
Um,
Mario.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's later in the game, but right, there's no like open world really. Um,
I gotta
you
say,
know,
man, I don't think I picked up on that the entire time I was playing through it. I think I was just like so impressed because like y- I never played 8 until long after 10. I played the demo of 8, so I was impressed with the graphics. Then got into playing 7, beat 7, didn't play Final Fantasy again until 10. So the jump in graphics for me was huge, and I guess I was just like taken aback by like the, the game was kind of half like a PS2 tech demo, I guess, if you think about it, because there was so much in that game that I think that was just designed to be pretty as fuck. And, like, honestly, insanely impressive that it can render.
yeah. So I heard Square loves. Square has always been a company that's like cutting edge
Mm-hmm.
graphics, on all their shit. And yeah, totally. And you know, I think it took me a little while to notice that 10 was the way that it was with the exploration. Because of what I'm saying, where it makes sense with the pilgrimage, and so it kind of makes sense that, and the story keeps up with it, right? Where it's like now we're here and we're doing this thing, and then we get through, and now we're here, you know. But the hallway aspect of it is a little obnoxious at times, where
Yeah.
it does just feel like you're just running down the path, you know. Um, but yeah, with the battle system so good and with the environments that you run through being cool, and there being like little extra things for you to do and stuff, I don't really think it's all that bad of a thing. I think they did it really well. Now, the really interesting thing about 10 though is I've been dunking on like the story the whole time, saying that like it's just silly and dumb. I There's a turning point though. Like halfway into the game, all of a sudden you're not laughing at the cutscenes as much anymore, and all of a sudden you're like empathizing with the characters, and you know all the characters, and you like most of them, and like the cutscenes start to take this more serious dramatic turn, and like and and the themes of the game, like surrounding like death and acceptance of death and moving on and stuff, those themes start to really like become apparent. And like it's like the whole first half of the game is just silly fun, but it's like secretly setting up all these pieces, you know,
Yeah.
that and before you know it, you don't even realize that like now shit's getting like dramatic and serious, and it's still great. Like they managed to really pull off the dramatic stuff later.
Hmm.
And I was really impressed by that too. So it was like, damn, they did a really good job telling ultimately a serious story, even though they won me over early on with just letting me just relax and have fun, silly fun with the story for a while, you
Yeah.
know?
Did you play this on PS2 or PS4?
I played the PS2 version.
Okay. Yeah, so we played the same thing. I bought the PS4 version, the remaster. I didn't. I bought it because I was like, oh man, Final Fantasy X, that was great. I should actually try and beat that again. So I picked that up, and then I, I think I played it for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a JRPG, and then I went and played something else. And only because I just know it's going to be a huge commitment of time, and it's like for me that's just like I dread it. But I did hear that I think they had to rebuild like a very significant portion of the entire game, if not done from the ground up, because I want to say during the development of it, well, not during, but before it, they had realized that the source code was just gone. Like they had gotten rid of the source code for 10. So like there are things about the remaster that if you look at them, they're not the same at all. Like it's not like a hey, this is how this would look in HD. It's like, hey, Titus's face doesn't look right. He looks like way more of a little boy in the remaster. It's very strange. Like Titus definitely had it. You know, he still looks like maybe 2 years removed from Sora from Kingdom Hearts. You know, he's still that babyish, like kind of Japanese teenager boy stereotype, but there's a distinct like sharpness to his face that like in the remaster it just looks like a little boy, like if he was like 10 years younger. Like actually in the cutscenes that you see with him and Jecht as a little boy, just put that head on a normal sized human, and I think that's what he looks like.
Oh,
It's weird.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen it at all. I was thinking about picking up the remaster just to play on like Vita, right, while I'm
Yeah.
pooping.
I wouldn't
And that,
say that the difference is so noticeable. Like if you were to compare Spyro the Dragon with its modern, reignited trilogy, that's
oh,
a
of course.
that's a much bigger difference, obviously, with console leap generations. But like I'm saying, that the things you've noticed, like the color and shapes of things, are much more drastic than the remaster of 10 and from 10. But yeah, I don't know. It was more that I didn't just want to commit the time to play it, but you talking about it is making me want to go through it again, because I do remember liking the story, and I remember liking the characters. I even remember liking Yuna, but that may have just been because I was a teenage boy and I liked every female character in the game.
She does have 2 different colored eyes, so that buys her a
cool
lot
too.
of points.
Yeah.
Buys her a lot of points. All right. So, okay. Before I forget to bring it up, can we talk about the laughing scene? The infamous Final Fantasy X laughing scene. Because here's the thing. That was like the one thing I knew about the game going into it, and I was very disappointed by people's interpretation of it. Because here's the deal. Everyone laughs at how cringy and terrible his super fake laugh is, you know? Oh, it's so dumb. It's so fake and cringy. Guess what? For the record, especially if you don't already know this about Final Fantasy X, that's the fucking point of that scene. It's literally the point of the scene is that he is faking it. And that like it's like what the point of the scene is that like, it's about sort of like depression and like the issue of having to like keep up appearances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Yuna in the game really struggles with Okay, you know what? There were some really nice things about Yuna. I've been playing 10-2 recently, and we'll get into that. Yuna is way worse in 10-2, so maybe I'm just misremembering 10 a little bit. Because I did really like some of the stuff with Yuna in 10, and a lot of it was her struggle with like keeping up appearances, where she can't show sadness and she
Yeah.
can't show weakness to people because she has to be this beacon of hope for people. Uh, and because of that being part of the theme with the game, and Titus is kind of going through something similar, and and he's telling her or she's telling him or one of them is saying that they just have to do this big stupid fake laugh
That's
to
yeah.
like
That's
to
Titus
get
telling
it out of
her.
their system.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah. Uh, and what's way worse, this is the thing about it. So the fake laugh, it's the point of it that it's fake, but directly after that happens, then Yuna starts fake laughing, and it's way worse than Titus's fake
Yep.
laugh. And then they look at each other and they have like a little moment, and then they start like
Real
real
laughing. Yeah.
laughing. And that is so much cringier than the fake laugh, where it's like, oh man, people missed the point of this scene so badly. Because, like, everything after the fake laugh is so much worse. But I don't know. I think maybe the initial Titus fake laugh is the most, like, recognizable, obvious thing that you would reference to be like, hey, yeah, remember that scene that was really cringy? Um,
There's
but
just
yeah.
a lot. I guess I was just from anime and stuff, especially English dubbed anime. There's so much that like doesn't translate that just by definition is objectively cringy because it doesn't fit in with the social situation that's actually going on. It's when I saw it, I don't remember the laughter after it being creepy, but like when you explain the context of it, I was like, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I wanted to say too. Is like he is purposely trying to like fucking sound that shit out to make her laugh and then actually laugh. But I don't remember the laughs after being all that bad. It just I guess I expect it. I don't
I
know.
don't know. I guess to me it's just
I'd have to
like
rewatch it.
it's just hilariously bad when you just have like two characters having a little like moment with each other. I don't know. I hate it.
Like any feminine character that ever appeared in a 70s kung fu movie.
Oh God. Right. It has to do a lot with pacing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you give the giggle too much space before and after it, you know, and draw too much attention to it, then it gets a little weird. Um but yeah. Okay, so speaking of that kind of thing though. So then there's like a part of the game where the characters are talking about that kind of thing. Like, oh, I'm having this problem and this is how I feel about it, you know? Um, the characters in battle will yell stuff out every once in a while. Which I think I've talked about on the cast before as being something that I often just drives me absolutely nuts about games and I totally hate. Because a lot of the time it's repetitive or it doesn't actually express what the player is thinking at the time or all kinds of reasons that I can't stand it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I making sense here?
Kind of.
Uh anyway, let's
If you give me an
like
example.
okay, in Death Stranding, every fucking time that you get out of the car, Norman Reedus goes to himself, I gotta stretch my legs. You know? And it's like it's just something he says while he's getting out, and it's like it bugs me so bad because
Why is that so funny?
90% of the
Oh.
time 90% of the time I'm getting out of the truck in Death Stranding, it's so I can pick up one package and get directly back into the truck. You're not stretching your legs, Norman. You're picking up the package and we're getting back in the truck, which makes it extremely unimmersive to me as a player to have the character saying something that is directly opposing what I'm thinking at the time with my actions.
I'm just
Ooh, I hate it.
how if you had to be the only other person in that car with that guy all day, how quick would it take for you to just beat his ass? It would escalate pretty quickly.
It's another reason that I've never been able to play a game by what's that company that makes like Bastion and they made Hades.
Oh, Devolver Digital?
Well, no, they're a
Hades.
publisher.
Oh yeah.
Supergiant Games, I think
I
is what
think
they're
it is
called.
Supergiant Games. Yep, that is.
Yeah. I cannot play any game that company makes because they all have this problem where like oh my god. Where like okay, so in Hades, if you go over to the entrance to the dungeon, if I'm leaving one time because I'm like, oh, I forgot this one thing. I'm just gonna go upgrade this one stat real quick because I forgot to do it at the mirror, and then I'm going back to and then I'm gonna go to the dungeon. But as I'm leaving, the character says to himself something like, don't really feel like it right now. It's like, no, I do. I want to do the dungeon right now. I just gotta do this one thing real quick. And like I get it's supposed to be immersive that the character is like explaining their actions, but it's not correct.
Yeah, I know fully what you mean now.
But also it just bugs me, right? It's just annoying to me. Ooh. So anyway, Final Fantasy X has voice acting for the first time in Final Fantasy. By the way, that's also a thing.
That was another thing that just blew me away. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
And so characters will yell things during battle a lot of the time, which when you say to me, I'm like, uh-oh, that's gonna get annoying. But it's actually done super well where like it's character specific and story specific. Where like there's a point in time where Titus is talking about like sometimes he just feels like fucking screaming, you know, because he's got these problems and like maybe no one takes him seriously or whatever, and like and he doesn't know how to express it right. He doesn't know how to express his problems and he just wants to scream, you know. And when that happens, if you enter a battle with Titus and Yuna, because Yuna's the one he is talking about this with, in battle, like one time, she'll just say during a random battle, like, you can scream if you want to, you know, which is like kind of stupid and funny for her to say, but it's like, dude,
it works with
they recorded that line and have her say that, and it's like immersive to the story that she says that to him in a random ass battle. And then if you get in like during a battle later, you get into a battle and Titus just screams. He just goes like like at the start of a fight, and you're like, dude, he did the scream. You know, and that's that kind of shit is so good. Or like when Riku first tells you that she's afraid of lightning, then like after that in battle, the next couple times that like an enemy casts lightning in battle, she like screams or she like startles her, you know, and you're like, dude,
that, yeah.
Yeah, so there's like all these little things that just happen once or twice, and that, you know, if you miss them, you miss them, but they're like unique things that the characters say during battle, and I really really like that.
I think it's like there's definitely a lot more dialogue that goes on that's just text, right? Kind of like how there used to be dialogue, you know, mid game in like Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, like when you go into like a place where there's a lot of people, like the towns or the cities and stuff, and you chat with the townsfolk, they're not all voice acted. It's mostly just the cutscenes.
No, I meant like in combat when you have like actual conversation between characters going on. Isn't that, or is that all voiced?
That's all voice, yeah. They don't even do text boxes, I don't think. It's just shit the characters yell out for some reason.
Full disclosure, God damn it, I actually think it's been about 20 years since I played this game. It's been 2 decades. Jesus Christ. Because it came out in like 2001, right?
Good question. I don't know.
It was
exactly what year.
I think it was pretty early on.
I think it was later than that, though.
I think it was pretty early on with the PS2. I'm asking the Dr. Google right now. Yeah, July 19th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
Yep. That was original release date, so that might, or initial release date. So that could be the Japan release date, but I don't think it. I think after like a certain point, they were just like, no, we're just going to release it like pretty much side by side in Japan and the United States, all world markets. I don't know if that was with Final Fantasy X, but yeah, God
I think
damn
I
it.
did hear that the US version has more content. It's got like a couple super bosses or something that the
Yeah.
Japanese one didn't have.
Although,
Um,
I guess we can get the head of Twitter tweet ready, get it winded up because it's not technically 20 years old yet. It's July 19th, 2001, and it is, of this recording, only the 7th.
Okay, yeah, so we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary. Great time to be talking about it, I guess.
Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I mean to like wrap up what I have to say about the game is that like man, I just loved the way that the story introduces itself as being just campy, silly fun, but then really elegantly transitions into something dramatic and serious and interesting, while still being able to make you laugh later in the game. And then the whole time, it's got probably the best battle system that any Final Fantasy has had yet.
The sphere
And
system, the sphere grid for upgrading your character, that threw me for a loop.
yeah,
It
I'm
should
glad
be
you brought
simple,
that up now.
but it's not simple, or at least it wasn't to me 20 years ago. I was used to materia, so I was used to weapons having a certain amount of slots, and then you put the shit in there, you mix and match, you get different effects, and you level it up when you have it in the slot that you use it in, and you win battles. That's what I was used to. So going straight into the sphere grid, not having done what I think it was trying to emulate with 8, if I remember correctly, I didn't get a whole lot of experience on that. So I think my character builds were pretty lopsided, if I remember.
Oh, yeah, I think it's kind of hard to screw it up. But okay, so yeah, if you don't know, Final Fantasy 10 does something very strange with its leveling, which is that there is something called the sphere grid, which is that your character, it's kind of like if you imagine the skill tree from like Path to Exile, it's like it's this giant web of nodes. But most of them are pretty linear. It's not like a web as in you can jump around a lot. It's pretty linear with the pathing of them. There's just branches here and there. But it's like it's just like a whole trail and web of nodes, each of which has either an ability or a stat upgrade on it. And so, um, as a and as a character levels up, well, it's not as they level up. Instead of gaining levels from experience, what you get are movements on the sphere grid. So like every so many experience points, you get one movement on it. So then you can open up that character on the sphere grid and move their position over to the next node that like unlocks, strength +4 or a new ability or something. And what's extra weird about it though is that then you also need to use a sphere to unlock that ability or stat bonus. So you get experience points that let you move on the grid, but that doesn't actually do anything yet. You also get spheres as items from battle that you are able to use to unlock the abilities or stats that are on spheres that are adjacent to where you are on the grid.
That's the shit. That's what it was. I was like,
Yeah.
how is this putting itself together? Do I have any input to it? Like, I didn't understand what was going on, like, when my shit would shift. And I was like, what's... It didn't make sense. The linear path at the start made sense, and then I just lost the plot, like, halfway through and just started upgrading what felt like it made sense because I used it a lot in battle.
Yeah, yeah. So the nice thing about the like use a sphere to get the adjacent nodes kind of thing is that like sometimes you'll get to a spot where there's a branch in the path And technically, you can go to the spot that branches out and you can get the abilities on each next step of each branch, and then go down the one branch that you actually want to go to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. But overall, though, I think the idea that you have to use a sphere in order to unlock the things that you're moving to, I think adds an unnecessary layer of complication. But it's fine. Um, there's a couple spots where it makes a little bit of sense as to why they did that. Because there's certain nodes that are like locked by items that are rarer, and so they don't want you to just be able to get it as you pass by. You're supposed to come back to it later, or that kind of thing. Now, here's the big kicker about the sphere grid is that every character is on the same sphere grid, just in different parts of it. So
Oh,
I say
yeah.
that different nodes are stat upgrades, like this one's strength +4, this one's agility +2. Some of them are abilities. This one's Kiraga, this one's delay strike, I keep talking about. And so what you end up with is like this area of the sphere grid up here is white mage, and that's where Yuna starts out, right? And then this spot right here is Titus's class and his abilities, and that's where he starts. And then down here is the black mage, and that's where Lulu is. But once you traverse your character through their area of the sphere grid, so they unlock all of their abilities, you can move them into another area and start getting abilities from that class, essentially.
Huh.
And so theoretically, theoretically, you could unlock every ability with every character.
Yeah.
But I think what is going to happen for most people is you get every character's main abilities unlocked because they started out in their own area, and then each character kind of branches out into one other class and gets a few abilities from it. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff in there, like where where I got like time magic. Like Titus gets some time magic, I think, by default. Or maybe it's someone, I think it's him.
Where you
But
just use them to like have faster strikes and such.
like cast haste on the party,
Yeah.
so that then they get their
Oh.
turns more frequently and stuff. Yeah.
By
But so
default?
well, by default, I mean like it's in his area of the sphere grid.
Oh, that's weird.
Um, I think that was how it was. Either that or it was in Yuna's. Point is, I
Hmm.
moved the other one like over there, and it was able to get time magic with multiple characters and that kind of thing. And there's a couple gimmicks as well. Yeah,
Without
overall, it's a system that's like kind of complicated, but I kind of like it as well. I don't know.
mm.
It's neat.
Without spoiling it, how did you feel about the ending?
So first of all, I thought that the last boss was like the best boss of any Final Fantasy game I've played.
Wow.
Like holy shit, the last boss was fun.
Cool.
And then the ending, well, I don't know, I liked it. I think it's one of those endings where like it kind of did what I was expecting it to do. And I'm glad it did though, because it was satisfying and good. Oh, I liked it. And
Cool.
then the very last shot of the game, I think it might have even been post credits for some reason, is hilarious. So that's great too. I don't know why. The game is directed in a very bizarre way. Um, but yeah, it's is good. Is good. So yeah, right. So that's kind of my whole sum up. Is I mentioned that like the story does that whole thing where it moves in a way that's really good. The battle system is phenomenal the entire time. Yeah, my only thing about it is that like maybe the exploration could have been a little bit more open, but at the same time, I get why it wasn't, and it was fine.
Yeah.
So overall, it was one of my favorite Final Fantasies. I think we kind of talked about like which ones were our favorites last time. And I think I mentioned that like 3, 5, and 7 are like my top tier. I think that 10 ends up landing under 3, 5, and 7 as the top tier.
Really?
Um, but I think it's there though. It's either top tier or it just gets a tier of its own in there, that's like between the middle and the top tier. But nah. I think, yeah, I think it's one of the top tier ones.
Yeah, I think I really dug it too. It was definitely good enough for me to get towards the end. And I honestly want to say the reason I didn't finish it was because I didn't technically own it, and I think I was borrowing my friend's copy at the time, and I think he just wanted it back to replay it. So I was like, oh shit, well here you go. But it didn't bother me too much because I think there was a lot late game that was just like pissing me off. So in order to keep my sanity, I was just taking breaks from it.
Oh sure.
But I guess here's where we could talk about 10-2. So I have no context of 10-2.
So, yeah, I just started 10-2 like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And it is it's tough. It's a tough thing to look at. Or to talk about. It has beams of brilliance here and there, but overall is just a nightmarish train wreck. Like, okay, so in Final Fantasy X-2, you play as Yuna and Riku from 10 and a new character named Pain.
Oh, that's right. It's not even Lulu.
Yeah.
Damn.
So you play as those three, and they are basically the Spice Girls, and the game is basically Spice World. And like the first bit of the game, the first few like chapters of it are like they front load the cringe on so hard that like it was like unwatchable, unbearable at the start of it, where just like the way that so you are these three characters and they're really heavy like girl power kind of types, but that's not like even but then you get into like your ship that you're driving around in, and your main like guy that's in the ship, the Charlie of the Charlie's Angels, is like this, oh man, I don't even know how to describe him. He's just super annoying. I don't know how to describe this shit. There's also a child on the ship. Okay, let's where do I fucking start? Okay, so Yuna is a sphere hunter now. So the three of them, Yuna, Riku, and Pain, are sphere hunters, which is kind of like bounty hunters, but they're looking for spheres.
Materia.
Well, the reason that they're looking for spheres is because one time Yuna found a movie sphere. Okay. Yeah, a movie sphere.
Like a
that
Jedi
had
a Sith holocron?
I don't know. It's like a fucking VHS tape, I guess, except it's a sphere for no reason. And they look like VHS tapes too. I don't know why. In like the technological wonderland of your flying ship and your sci-fi shit, where your movies are stored on crystal balls, that when you put it in, it looks like a fucking VHS tape that someone touched the film on, and your tracking on your VCR is fucked up.
You know what this is? Hang on, real quick. This is society intent on injecting current relevance into fantasy worlds like this. Like it thinks you're a fucking idiot and goes, hey, this is what they're about to look at, and it looks like this when you look at video.
Yeah.
So here's what's happening.
Right. It's like all of the film grain and tracking effects are applied just so you know it's a recording.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so So she finds a movie sphere that has someone who looks like it might be Titus on it. So she's like, "Oh, what is the deal with that?" And so now we're going to be sphere hunters to go find more. And so it's like the whole thing is like, "We heard that there's a sphere up on the top of the mountain. Let's go, girls." And then so like you fly your big dumb like hot rod ship over there, and you have to understand that for no reason in all of the cutscenes, the dialogue is just fucking terrible, where they have completely ruined the character of Riku. She was like one of
Oh,
the best characters in 10, but in this one she's just like the bumbling idiot, while Pain is like the no nonsense and Yuna is the I have no personality.
man, I gotta
So
tell you, real how disappointed I was in knowing that that wasn't just Lulu with a haircut. Like, that was my favorite character from Final Fantasy X, both because I like black mages and because I was a teenage boy. Um,
oh yeah. Like, well, the thing with Lulu, you are exactly right. That like at the end of battles, she straight up just leans over and squishes her boobs together
yeah, I
for
remember that.
some
Yeah.
uh so oh man. So in all of these cutscenes, the camera is like moving around an unnecessary amount, and the dialogue is like extra bad for some reason. I wish I could think of examples. Um, but a lot of the time, it's just like Yuna is saying, I think that we're gonna go do this thing. And then like some minor inconvenience or potential issue it happens, right? And Rico will be like, "Oh, poopy whoopy," and stuff. And it's like, are
God.
you fucking like literally this is the writing where they'll say things
Fuck.
like that, right? So you're just like, "Oh my god."
It also might just be like there is a very big disconnect in like the cute young girl, I guess, aesthetic between Japan and like generally the West. So like
Perhaps.
translating that to English just has to be the worst job ever.
You're right. This could have just been localization gone terribly wrong.
hmm
Um, that's a very good point. Because yeah, it's like unbearable at times due to like the writing like that, and also all of the characters are always like in this weird like dancing maneuver that they're doing while they're talking, and the cutscenes are really cheap, where like they're not using like proper lip syncing and stuff, but rather the characters' faces are like PS1 faces where they're just static, but then it'll just like load in another emotion for them. And they just have like very stunted movements during the cutscenes where they just like they don't walk to a place. They don't have a smooth character animation. They just like run over to a place in their running animation and then stop and then pivot and then say and then resume their little dance animation while they say the next thing.
They're like
And
RTS characters essentially.
yeah, it's like the cheapest shit with the worst writing, and all of the dialogue is also made worse by the fact that it's very stunted in its pacing, because it's not like a directed cutscene. It's like the programmer directed the cutscene,
Yeah.
as far as like once the voice line ends, wait 1 second for no reason, and then programmed the camera angle shot with loading in the new voice line. You know what I mean? Like it all feels very cold and programmed
Like it's
instead of
one step away from like how cartoon characters won't animate themselves walking. They'll just like make a little vibration noise and you hear
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
South
to
Park
to
run.
where it doesn't feel like someone directed a cutscene. It feels like it should be text boxes coming up on screen for you to read yourself and thumb through without any animation, without any cut. If it like some of the dialogue would not be so bad if it was a 16 or 8-bit game
Yeah.
and you were just reading text boxes and there was no voice acting, no dumb camera, no stunted character movement and weird dancing and shit. And if you were just reading the dialogue, you'd you'd be like, oh, this game is kind of silly, but it's not unbearable. But like everything else about it makes it so bad. Okay, but let's get into how the game is structured. So the game is mission based also. So you are in the same world as Final Fantasy X, the same tube, and you have a airship from the start. From the very start of the game, you just pick where you want to go on the long tube of the world of Final Fantasy X. And you just have to go to different places in order to do different missions, right? You highlight the different missions on a menu, or the different areas on a menu, and it'll be like, hey, there's a thing to do here. So you go there, and it pops up, oh, mission started, do this thing, and then you do the mission, and then you're done. And it's like, mission complete, right? Here's your reward. Mission-based in the different places. Because you're bounty hunters. You gotta find the sphere, right? And that kind of thing.
What are the spheres made out of?
They look like crystal balls.
But like,
I don't
is
know.
it materia though? Is it essentially all
No.
it is, or?
No, they do different things, but none of them are materia,
Like, not in like name or
so
function, I
there's
guess, just
movie
concept.
spheres. There's also treasure spheres that you're
Weird.
trying to get, and so I guess those are just worth money. There was one that was called an awesome sphere. Not joking. They're like, you need to get the awesome sphere. And the characters are like, what's that? I bet it's awesome. And it's again, it's like if this was 16-bit and these were the text boxes, I'd be like, okay, that's goofy. But
When it's
the way
acted
that
out.
yes, the way that it's acted out makes it so bad. So it's mission based, and a lot of the missions have these gimmicky ass mini games that are also kind of terrible. Where like, oh god, there was this one part where we had to like do like a hunting game where we were in, the beach area that's at the start of Final Fantasy X where you first meet Waka,
Yeah.
and there's like some ruins, and
Besaid?
it goes up to Besaid Village.
Yeah.
Yup. So that whole run from the beach to the town became like a mini game where it's like, all right, you gotta run to the beach and shoot as many beasts as you can, and you gotta get this score in order to beat the mission. So for some reason, it's an action game now, but like the controls were so terrible, and it's just like the cheapest shit where you're running along and the enemies are just spawning from the end and running at you, and you have to like hit a button to target the nearest one and then a button to shoot at them because you have guns. So you shoot at them with your limited ammo, but the game doesn't tell you that after you shoot 6 times, your character cannot shoot for the next several seconds. Are they reloading? I don't know. You don't have a revolver. Your gun definitely doesn't look like a revolver.
Energy cooldown. That's what the sci-fi
And
does.
the character's not making a reload animation or anything that would tell you. No, instead the button just doesn't fucking work for a few seconds. It's very frustrating. And there's just a lot of things where it's like for some reason the buttons just don't do things every once in a while. Meaning that like this mini game that's already just kind of stupid and cheaply made adds this whole new level of frustration on top of it, where it's got these like dumb mechanics that are like they feel like problems instead of mechanics.
Yeah.
Partly because of how they're presented to the player.
Like the
And
Final
so it's like,
Fantasy
man,
version of the 512 rule, which I didn't even know about till today, but apparently it's like shout out to Theory Fighter for this cool video. But the 512 rule was essentially in Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, like the very first Street Fighter 2, 1 out of every 512 of your attacks will, like, if it's just a punch, it will be Ryu's Hadouken attack. And then conversely, 1 out of every 512 I want to say blocks, or no. 1 out of every 512 hits that you take will be automatically blocked without you having to input the block. And it's purely just because back in those days there was not, like, you know, a lot of information to get around about here's how you do special moves. Like, it was all word of mouth and magazines and shit. I guess that was like their idea of a balancing factor, but you know, this example seems a little bit more unintentional, where it's just like, dear God, the dev team had to create cutscenes out of manipulating camera angles, I guess, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So let's get into a positive, though.
Sure.
So then it's time for battles, and it's time to fight in the game, right? There's random battles as you run around and you fight shit. Now, they brought back ATB, right? So this bugs me a little bit, but we'll get into it. First of all, though, the battle system is overall by far the best thing that this game has going for it, and it redeems a lot of it gets you through a lot of shit. Because yeah, it is fun to fight shit in the battles.
They're also using guns now, right?
So they brought back jobs. So in this game they're called dress spheres.
Yeah.
So they're also spheres. For some reason there's dress spheres. And but you know what? I'm into one thing that I'm really into with, like, the job system of the good Final Fantasies, or the job system Final Fantasies, is that they have different costumes and they look great. The different jobs look great, you know? Same here. They're dress spheres. You are promised great outfits with your different classes. And also, each of the 3 different characters looks different, you know, so they all kind of get their own unique version of it.
So, like, Bing Bang Boom, Sailor Moon costume intro, you're a sniper now?
Yeah, it looks
cool.
great. and you can swap, just like in Final Fantasy X, how you can, like, tag team different members in this game. You have the same 3 members the whole time, but you can swap what dress sphere you're in. So yeah, you can swap over to white mage, black mage, gunner,
in combat,
you know, warrior, mid combat.
Nice.
And so yeah, so it'll switch over to, like, a transition screen where, you know, it swipes down the character one dress to the next, you know, and they have a big intro to their new class, you know, and it looks good. Takes a long time, but it looks good. And so it's pretty fun to play a regular RPG battle system with ATB, where you can change classes on the fly, and each character, they brought back regular level ups, by the way, so now you get experience points, you level up, your stats go up. But now you also get ability points mid-battle that unlock new abilities, right? So as a white mage, you have a list of your abilities, and it'll be like, I have Kira and Kira, and I've got Shell, right? But then unlearned, up on top, I've got Kiraga, you know, the next version of that, and then I've got Protect, right? Because I have Shell, and if I pick which one of those I want to learn next. And whichever one you learn, you know, then the next one of that, like, category unlocks also for you to learn. So you learn you get AP to learn new abilities for each of the classes, and you get the AP just by being that class in battle. It's pretty cool. There's one more little thing to it, which is that like
that carries from battle to battle, right? You level up as you go, or does it like happen like a weird roguelike in every episode where every dress has a new path that you take down the combat?
Well, so every dress has its own list of abilities that you unlock, but the unlocks are permanent.
Gotcha. Okay.
So then also, to make things a little bit more complicated, each character has, well, not each character, but there's also garment grids, which is like a garment grid. It's like a tiny sphere grid, where there's just like 5 nodes on it that are connected, right? And you fill those nodes in with dress spheres. So you might have 8 dress spheres, but this garment grid only has 5 spots on it. So you have to pick only 5 of them, and then a character equips a garment grid, and each character can equip a different garment grid, right? So not every character necessarily has access to every single dress sphere. You got to pick and choose a little bit. Now, there's a little bit more complication to it, which is that when you're in battle and you want to switch dress spheres, you can only switch to connected nodes on the garment grid. You hit the button to bring up the garment grid, and you move on it in order to change classes. So you have to be kind of careful with how you lay them out, so that you can't go directly from this one to that one. You got to go over to it in steps. Now, that can be a benefit, though, because some of the bars that connect the dress spheres together have special perks on them, like a stat upgrade that is just for that battle. Where if I switch from this class to that class, I pass through the strength up node, and then now my strength is also increased. So it's got that kind of shit going on. I think it's a little overcomplicated.
It sounds like it, but yeah.
But it's kind of fun, if it were a little simpler, I might like it a little bit more, because I sort of feel like it's a little overcomplicated to the point where I use the class switching a lot less than I think I should. I generally just kind of have a white mage and 2 physical attackers, and I just kind of hold X and let the white mage heal the party and the attackers attack, and I try to avoid switching dresses just because it's kind of a pain for a couple reasons. Yeah, it's time consuming. And all right, so let's talk about ATB for a second. This is the game where ATB has bothered me the most. Maybe? No, not as much as 9. But still, it bugs me a lot, the ATB in this game. Almost for the opposite reason, which is that in this game, things kind of go a little bit too fast. Characters take their turns almost simultaneously in this game. And, so it's like ATB, but shit's just happening all the time, to the point where I cannot watch the effect that my spells have without losing turns. Like, here's what I mean. So I'm going to try to blind an enemy, right? And so I use a move that blinds them. However, when that move actually is happening, I'm in a menu for another character picking their attack. So I don't see how much damage it does, and I don't see that the enemy's immune to it, or that kind of thing. And I'm having this problem a lot where, like, I'm never really seeing how effective my shit is because I'm too busy menuing the next character's move while it goes off. And you can go in ATB wait, you can do the ATB wait just like always, and just like always, that only means that it freezes the bars if you're in a sub menu, which is like okay, but not really good enough, especially, and this ties right back in with why I don't switch classes very often. For some fucking reason, when you open up the garment grid to switch dress spheres, that does not pause the ATB. every other like sub menu, like opening up your magic, opening up your skills or your items or targeting your attack, that puts the ATB into wait mode where you can sit there in that menu and think about it. But when you open up the garment grid to switch classes, it doesn't. So if you have to think about for a second what class you want to switch to, you're just getting wailed on while you do that. And the garment grids are not like a traditional menu. They're a fucking sphere grid. So it's a little awkward
You have
to
to navigate it with the
navigate
stick?
the menu. Yes.
Ah.
Because you have to move around in weird directions. So you got to be really careful in that menu, but you're under this time pressure because the enemies are getting free turns while you're in there. Drives me fucking insane.
So it's
that is a thing.
It's actively deterring you from using what its best feature sounds like.
I think so. That's been my experience with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get a little bit used to it though. Like at some point, your characters well enough and the enemies well enough to where you can think a couple turns ahead and you already know where your menu spots are of where you want to go. And so you can make little quick glances up at the action to see, how much damage you did and that kind of stuff. I just really wish it was still turn-based like 10 though.
Yeah, it sounds like I could use it. I was gonna say, is there anything like, again, without spoiling it, because I haven't technically beaten 10 yet, but is there anything story-wise that like fans of 10 that you would just go up to him and immediately say, "Oh yeah, well you gotta finish it with 10 too"? Like, is there anything going on that like it starts on the premise that you saw a sphere that had Titus maybe in it?
Yeah, so far, man, it's hard to answer the question without spoiling. Um, I think this is good enough though. All I will say, I think, is that if you really liked the story of 10, I think so far from what I've seen of 10-2, it kind of betrays the themes of Final Fantasy X and sort of only goes in a direction that kind of makes you angry. Like
Right.
what yeah. So I'm struggling with it because I hate the cutscenes and I hate the story. The battle system is mostly awesome but kind of annoying
Are you an
in
anime
some
fan at all?
ways. Yeah.
Okay. When you watch anime, do you prefer or have you tried listening to the Japanese voiceover with English subtitles?
That's generally that's what I do, yeah.
Okay. So is there an option in 10 to switch it to Japanese voice acting?
Not that I've seen.
Fuck.
No.
I would look for that immediately if the dialogue is kind of ugh.
Maybe on the remaster. Maybe.
Oh yeah. Well,
I'd definitely look into that.
the thing is, if they lost the source code, did they lose all the original voice acting as well? Did they have to re-record scenes?
Oh, I doubt it.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, so yeah, my thing with anime is that I really like anime in general and like sort of just the whole a lot of the stuff surrounding it, but I never really sit down and actually watch an anime.
Oh, me either.
Like,
yeah, I can't. It's like
I never actually watch one, but I like it. Anyway, so and you do bring up a really good point because there are definitely games that benefit greatly from being in Japanese.
Shenmue.
Remember, I was talking about characters talking too much in game and in battle and stuff. Huge
in 10.
Well, just in general in games, because I didn't mind it in 10.
Okay.
But there are games though, like what's that one?
Fucking stretch your legs.
Well, there's games like Persona 5, where there are a lot of repeated dialogue things that happen because because like the navigator will say a specific thing if you exploit a weakness, right? And so you're just gonna hear it over and over again, and that kind of thing. But in games like that, I'll play games like that in Japanese specifically because if they're saying something in Japanese, then I don't mind as much. Bravely Default 2 was one of them. That was a game that, oh my god, I think I mentioned this when I was talking about Bravely Default 2, where like when you would use 4 turns in a row, when you would go all brave, and use your 4 turns in a row and like cast a magic spell against an enemy's weakness 4 times in a row, the character would just yell out a quip 4 times in a row at them, several of them repeated, and it drove me so nuts. But if you change it to Japanese, it doesn't bug me anymore because, like, even if it's repeated, I don't know what it means, and
Yeah.
so it doesn't bug me anymore. Because part of it is not just the fact that I'm hearing the same syllables, it's that I find it irritating that the character would shout the same sentiment over and over. You know what I mean? Like it makes them sound stupid that they would
Yeah.
just keep saying, "All right in the soft bits, all right in the soft bits." It's like, really, that's what you say, But if it's in Japanese, I don't know what they're saying. They might be saying something cool. So yeah.
I want to
But
know what the
anyway,
direct translation is to Japanese. Like, right in the soft bits. What does that actually gotta mean in Japanese?
eh, oh boy. Where was I? So with 10-2, it's like the battle system is fucking dragging me through the game. The fact that the battle system is fun and some of the side quests are kind of fun. Like, you know how every Final Fantasy since Triple Triad has to have its own little mini game, you
What's Triple
know?
Triad?
It was the card game in Final Fantasy 8 that you could play.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I never got that far.
So 9 also had a card game, 10 had a little mini game. And
What was
and
Ten's
so
minigame?
10, I don't remember 10's mini game. Oh, well, it had Blitzball.
Yeah, I was gonna say it
Was it
had
just
Blitzball.
was it just Blitzball?
I don't think there was anything else.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it was just Blitzball. I played only enough Blitzball as was required, but I won the game. I won the game for my bro, and I was like, all right, that's it. I retire undefeated from Blitzball. When people ask me if I won the Blitzball, I can say yes,
Wait,
and
against
that's all I
Flex?
need. What do you mean?
Flex Retro? I thought. Are you saying you played Blitzball with him against him?
No, I mean, oh, when I say my bro, I mean Waka.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I won the game for the team. Uh,
For any reason,
like,
Squaresoft or Square Enix, rather, of course, if you're listening, I still want that Blitzball standalone game. I want it so bad. I want it with like PS5 graphics, a real 3D sense of movement, because it's just 3D soccer. That's really all it is. It's 3D soccer with humans, superhumans that can hold their breath and do crazy activity in essentially a big ball of jello. I mean, it's water, but
yeah,
it's
the number
unnecessarily
crunching was
resistance.
fun.
The number
Like it
crunching?
was like it's an interesting numbers game when you're playing it and stuff.
Man,
But
it has
yeah,
been a
oh
long
my god,
time.
the fact that they're swimming around in a sphere of water holding their breath, it's so stupid.
It's so stupid,
Uh,
but it looks badass though. And it's
uh,
cool that like they developed this like the science and engineering to make that kind of happen. Like I guess you kind of have to look at it from the perspective of these are no, because then it doesn't make sense even still. I was gonna say these are like island nations, and their sports, I guess, that they develop is something that would be pretty aquatic. But why wouldn't you just play like volleyball or some shit? Why does it have to be underwater? It
yeah,
still doesn't make any sense, but it's still fucking cool. So it never bothered me. I
right.
love it.
It's stupid cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so overall, right now for 10-2, the game is fucking dragging me through it. with its couple little things that are fun, like the battle system, as well as I thought that the mini game, like a couple of the missions mini games have been fun. Like one of them was this game's mini game, which was I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a math game where there's like a number in the middle and you have a bunch of numbers around it and you have to like use as many of the numbers around it as possible to make a multiple of the number that's in the middle without hitting one along the way, you know what I mean? So like if the number in the middle is 6 and I pick two threes, instantly I'm done, right? Because I hit 6. Uh, but if I hit like 3 and then 2 and then 3, now I'm at, you know, something else.
2 points.
Now I'm at 8, which isn't a multiple, right? And then I want to avoid, avoid 4 for the next one because that would be 12. So instead, now I would, hit like a 2 and then
this is strange.
like yeah, you like use as many as possible and before hitting the next multiple.
I meant like the idea that this is a mini game is strange. Like I get the concept. It's just what?
Yeah, it doesn't make any fucking sense in context because they present it like a card game that you play against another person.
Yeah.
They present it like it's a competitive game that you have to beat people at. But then when you do it, it's just a single player little solitaire game that you play yourself and try to get a certain score on. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But I thought the game was kind of fun, And so when that was a thing, and then like I fought a couple bosses that were fun to fight, there was a little while where I was like starting to be like, okay, maybe they just front loaded all the cringe and now the game is going to be kind of okay, for a little while. But then after that, it's sort of been getting worse again. And man, like the thing that I've noticed specifically about the cutscenes is that it's like every single time that you beat a mission and it goes back to the ship and we're back in the ship, right? It's like everybody's all like melancholy and somber about something like, I'm not sure where to go next. There's so many possibilities and it seems like it'll be forever before we find our goal or something, right? They're saying something like they're being all sad and melancholic. But then it'll just like out of nowhere, the music just kicks in. And like the camera starts like moving and all the characters start dancing and they're being silly and they're just like, well, if you just hang loose, it's not so bad. Maybe we'll just go here next and I'm sure everything will be fine. Right? God. And it's like, it's just like this fucking on a dime and it's every time.
Whoa.
It's comical.
This is a fever dream.
It's every time that this is the cutscene that happens to lead you into the next like thing. I don't know, to try to pace you into the next mission.
It almost seems like this is like supposed to be the weird you know how like in older animes, the end credits will have this weird note to the audience by one of the actual characters, like voice actors, but in character to the audience. Like, wow, I didn't expect that was going to happen today. Tune in next time to see what happens next, like something like that. Like, except it would be actually pretty relevant to what's going on. So it's like, it makes me wonder if that kind of shit is what's getting injected into this. Like maybe they're trying to make this a cartoony kind of after-ish thing of a serious game.
That is a weird analogy, but it totally reminds me of that. Of like you're watching like Dragon Ball Z, right?
Especially.
And a character dies, and then like the next time on kicks in and Goku is just like, whoa, gang, I didn't expect that to happen. Whoa.
Yeah.
Join us next time and see where this crazy thing goes.
Jesus.
You're right. It's like exactly like that. Oh man,
I feel like that's actually pretty common with a lot of Japanese games, though. Well, not even just games, but shows and shit. Like maybe it's just a weird at-home culture shock that we're going through.
Yeah, it's been very hard to play. I am currently 49% in. I really
Nice.
wanted to hit 50% so that I could know that it's all downhill, but nah, I got a few more steps to take. And I'm just hoping that it's like, man, we're gonna beat the game at like 75, right? Like, hopefully, I missed a bunch of shit and I'm further along than actual 50% because I really want to play Nocturne. That's the game I'm playing
Oh yeah.
afterward. And this one has just been so hard to get through. But like the battle system's cool and the dress spheres are cool and I like learning abilities of different classes with characters and that part of it is fun. And there's also this other thing that I haven't done yet, but apparently if you fill in the entire garment grid in a single battle with a character, like you flip between all of their different
Yeah.
dress spheres, they turn into their character specific special dress sphere. I
Oh.
haven't played with that yet, but it sounds pretty awesome.
So what
So
what does that mean? Is it like their ultimate perfect form or something?
I guess yeah, it's and I took a peek at like the abilities, and one of the abilities is a passive ability form of the ribbon from Final Fantasy where it prevents all status ailments.
Oh, okay.
So I'm thinking like, I'm looking forward to the part where there's gonna be like a boss that makes me kind of use these mechanics, right? Where I'm like, oh shit, I can't beat this guy. I got to use the special characters.
Hmm.
So yeah, looking forward to trying out something like that. Oh boy, though, it's been rough. Why are they all spheres? Treasure spheres. I can't get over it.
It can't be a chest anymore, man. It's the
It's
future.
so stupid.
Can't be a chest. You can't have materia. It's all different now. This is the future and everything is better now, believe me.
It's just the really like important thing is that like Final Fantasy X, as I keep saying, Final Fantasy X was stupid at the start, but in a way where like they did it just right and it was funny and fun, right?
Hmm.
But this one is just like embarrassing and
I'm glad I have this knowledge going in now because once I play it, if I do, I can just enjoy it for its cringe.
yeah. Well, there you go. There's Final Fantasy X too. That's my thoughts on it so far. Hopefully, next time you hear me talk about it, I'll have beaten it.
I'm a little curious about the not the maybe not the garment grid, but like the different dresses. So like walk me through I guess Yuna going through, is it like you change character or change kind of classes, so to speak, like right on the fly? Is it a quick little well, you said it's a kind of slow animation, but like do you find yourself finding situations where you need to utilize all different aspects of each different outfit
Like in the same
in the
battle,
same battles? Yeah.
every once in a while, yes.
So it's not a lot of incentive to use that thing unless, well, maybe now you know that there's a special outfit.
Yeah, I think there is. I think if you use it right, especially with like I was saying, there's some garment grids where like if you change between two specific classes, it gives you like a bonus for the rest of the battle and stuff. If I got more into that, I'm sure there are people whose play styles is totally to do a
Yeah.
lot of swapping and that kind of thing. For me though, right now I'm just kind of using the the good old white mage and a couple of fighters strat. It was
Gotcha.
working pretty well. But there are definitely enemies where you need to use elements on them, and maybe you could just swap a character over to black mage real quick. But there's
Especially like for
also a
those
warrior
bosses.
class that does elemental attacks, so that works pretty well for them.
So
So yeah,
they do actually physical damage, right? Like you said, there's a physical attacker. Like they have swords. It's not like for some reason I don't know why, but for everything I've ever seen of 10-2, it's all three characters standing in the same position on a battle stage, and they all have guns.
Yeah, so like the starting default class is the gunner, and they
Okay,
shoot guns.
gotcha.
And then there's like a warrior class, there's a samurai class, there's a gun mage class. You got white mage, black mage. Right away, you get songstress, which is like a dancer, and I
Mm-hmm.
like dancers a lot.
They're cool.
So that's cool.
Gun mage
You
sounds
know,
badass.
yeah, the gun mage is pretty interesting. They have they're the I was surprised at how late you get the gun mage because they are how you scan enemies
Oh,
to find weaknesses and stuff, and I expected to get that a lot sooner. That's another thing that I'm kind of missing from 10 is that in 10 you get the scan ability just by having it on your weapon. Like, one thing I really liked about 10 was that your different weapons didn't
hmm.
have attack power on them. They just had different traits. And one of the traits was that if that character was in battle, you could see the enemy's weaknesses, you know? And that was really convenient and nice to use, but this one doesn't have that. You know, you have to scan the guys and then you don't get the scan ability until way later. So that was weird, but you know, it's fine.
Yeah, it's just interesting. How you wouldn't get that early on, but you said it's like you don't have materia, but you have weapons that have just like a scan ability innate to them.
Classes.
Oh, classes will
Like
have it.
it's a
Okay, that's
dress
right.
sphere that's got the scan,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, man, that's
So
so
right,
weird.
so it's in Final Fantasy X where the weapons have traits, and one of them is like
Yeah.
the enemies are scanned when they are in combat. Yeah.
Okay. Well, damn, it makes me want to play these again. I think their remake for PS4 is both 10 and 10 too, is it not? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
I think that they're in a pack
It is.
together. Like
Okay.
it's a combo, yeah. And I think they're on PC and they're on Vita as well.
Did it release at the same time? Because I know I don't think they were making Vita games when that came out. I don't know. Maybe it's an earlier build.
The 10 and 10 too? I think
Yeah.
so. It came out a while
Oh wait,
ago.
no, you're talking about like original 10 and 10 too, not the remake or remaster remake. I don't know.
What? Nah, I'm talking about the remaster of 10
That's
and
on
10 too.
PS Vita?
Came out on Vita, yeah.
Man, when did support for the Vita drop?
I don't know. I mean, technically they're still making Vita games, aren't they?
Oh no, I thought like limited run games stopped making Vita games because they said Sony was shutting down the tooling to make the cartridges.
Oh, wow. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. I mean, I know that Sony hasn't said the word Vita in like 3 years.
Hmm.
But yeah, I guess I didn't realize that like other companies weren't making games for it anymore either.
Yeah, it's
Um,
all based on
hmm,
because they have they monopolize the cartridge production because it's a proprietary kind of cartridge. So
yeah.
yeah, limited run was saying they're shutting it down entirely. So no games for
Hmm.
Vita anymore,
Okay.
unfortunately. So there probably
Lame.
will be games in the Vita library that will be digital only. That's kind of depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there were for I think there already were, which I was okay with at first because it was a handheld,
Yeah.
but now that they're what was when Sony was talking about shutting down the PS3 and PSP stores, were they talking about shutting the Vita store down at the same time? Was it all three
I
of them,
think it
or
was
was it just
not.
3
I
and
think it
Vita,
was just
or
3
3
in
and PSP?
PSP.
Okay.
And then due to overwhelming backlash, didn't they just go, "All right, well you can have PSP," or something like that?
Yeah, they're keeping one of them up. I don't remember. I don't
Maybe
know.
it's
Maybe it was. I feel like it was all three,
I
and
don't
they
know.
decided that they're keeping the Vita up.
I never got a Vita, man. I every time I've ever seen the PS Vita, I look at it, I see it working, and I'm like, that thing's beautiful. And then like I look at all the games, and it's just like, oh, these are just like all visual novels.
Yeah, the Vita is a wonderful little device. I really really love it as a way to play PSP and PS1 games portably. Very very good support for those, especially with this little analog stick. But
Yeah. Well, I
but
thought
as
the
far as actual Vita games go, I don't know. I think I never had more than like 5 Vita games.
yeah. I don't know. many people who collected a whole bunch of them for it. But that's just the thing, is like when I held it, I was like, man, this is amazing. This is what if this is what the PSP was when the PSP came out, I would have probably bought it hands down. But like, I was at a point in my life where handheld gaming was just non-existent for me. So like, I was pretty much just on PC playing first-person shooters at the time. So I didn't even think about, like, I didn't even have a PS3 at the time that was out. So I didn't even care about the Vita. Unfortunately, because I feel like in hindsight, I'm really gonna miss out on one if I don't get them, because they seem really, really nice little devices.
Yeah. I like them a lot. Yeah, especially well, what I already said.
Yeah.
PS1. Like the man, I played through Resident Evil and Final Fantasy 7 so many times on Vita, just
Mm.
in the bathroom and stuff. It's great.
And I think Final Fantasy 4 for the Vita was like one of the first retro ports to it, I want to say.
Mm.
I can't remember, but like they didn't just port the game. They kind of had to remake it, like to fit the resolution of the Vita and everything. Like they made it high res textures. I think they added cutscenes. Like I heard the Vita or the Vita Final Fantasy 4 is like hands down one of the best ways to play it.
Huh. Interesting.
But
Well, all right.
any Final Fantasy talk post 10?
So
You didn't play 11, right?
I've not played 11.
I didn't either.
I've not played 12. I did play a bit of 13 years ago. This was like 2011 or 12 probably. I played a little bit of Final Fantasy 13. I heard that it was really linear, you know? And so I went into Final Fantasy 13 thinking, I've heard that this game is basically like an 80-hour movie. And you
Oh.
know what? I'm into that right now. That's what I want right now. So I started it up and I still hated it. Like I was still blown away by just how linear it was.
Wait, hang
And
on. Is 13 is that an MMO?
no, it's where you play as Lightning.
Oh, so I
And
don't even know about that game.
well, so it's really linear, yeah, but like the other thing that bugged me about it was just like some of the characters were super fucking annoying. Like I couldn't stand Hope. Like Hope's entire character is that he mistakenly it's like one of the characters in the game tries to save his mom. She's like falling and he grabs her hand, right? And he's like trying to save her and then he doesn't. She falls, right? And he's like, "Ugh, he killed her on purpose." And like
Those
and that's
characters.
his character, is that he just hates her. He just hates this guy and is like following him around, wanting to kill him, kind of, but like being a angsty, mopey idiot about it. For some reason, I don't know, it's so annoying that like that's like the setup for the character, right? And I don't know, there's just a bunch of other dumb shit about it that I could not get into the plot about it. Like they throw you real deep into talking about all these concepts that you have not been introduced properly to. Like, we were touched by the Lassie. Now we're Fal'Cie, and we got to do a focus, you know? And you're like, okay, maybe. I think it was actually the other way around, the Fal'Cie and the Lassie. But what is our focus? We don't know. It doesn't tell us, you know? And it's like, this is very stupid. The idea where it's like these ancient beings curse people with this problem where they get a focus, which is like the thing that they're supposed to do. And if they don't do it, they turn into a monster. But if they do it, they die. And also they don't know what their focus is. So it like leads you to wonder like what the point is, why the bad guys, or I say bad guys, why the fal'Cie are like doing this to people in the first place. Like, do they actually want to get shit done? Then why don't they tell people what their focus is? Yeah, I don't know. It's just like
This is
Hey.
13?
Yeah, it was very much presented to me in a way that the story was presented in a way that I very much didn't like it, and I didn't like any of the characters. And then you get summons. You're introduced to summons in the game, which
Finally.
are like they're like vehicles for some reason though.
Oh, cool.
It was like Shiva was like nah. I mean, maybe you're gonna think it's cool, I guess, because you're you, but like Shiva was like sisters that like scissor together and turn into a motorcycle, and
Whoa,
then
are you kidding me?
fucking Troy Baker. It's like Troy
Whoa.
Baker gets
Okay.
onto the Scissor Sisters motorcycle and goes, "Yeah," at the camera, and I was just done. I just never played the game again.
Hang on.
Oh.
All right. All right. I just need you to know that when you told me Shiva turns into, I was expecting a motorcycle. I wasn't expecting you're going to fucking blow my mind. I
Mhm.
just need you to know how awesome the words you just said were, but you're telling me the execution was not very spot on.
I thought it was stupid that
God damn.
the Shiva sisters are two halves of a motorcycle,
Why are they sisters?
and
I'm not gonna ask. It's way too cool to be to not be a motorcycle.
oh
I'm
man.
sure it made piped in awful Harley noises too.
Um but yeah, I am kind of interested in playing 12. I probably will play 12 at some point. And then I'll probably try 13 again, if not just to say I told you so.
Which one was like
However then
another the Zodiac Age? Is that one of these?
The Zodiac Age, I believe, is the name that they gave to the re-release of 12, which, yeah,
Okay.
they did like an HD re-release of 12. It's enhanced, it has some new features, and
Bunch
stuff
of
like that in
scandals
it.
about that, wasn't there? There was like another eight or not. I keep thinking Armored Core. The Zodiac Age is like, wasn't it just like missing like half of what it needed or something? I don't remember. There was something going on where people were just like so upset. It might have just been the fact that the Zodiac Age was kind of the oops, let's fix this shit of all the shit for the original game. I heard that the original game people were pretty upset with.
Oh, you know what? Okay, so yeah, I can't specifically answer your question because I don't remember, but
Hmm.
there is something to do with like it came out in Japan, and then when it came out in the US, it had extra content or something, and then the Zodiac Age might not have had that stuff or something. I'm not sure. But yeah,
Hmm.
there was something about it. Uh and then there's 14 though. So Final Fantasy 14, that one's another MMO like 11
Yeah.
was. I have played 14. It's awesome.
I hear it's
It's
fantastic.
Yeah, like if you like MMOs, I would recommend it. The big draw to 14 for me is that you get to make one character and they are every class. You switch
Hmm.
jobs in the game, your job is simply defined by what weapon you're holding. And then you have a different level for every job, and you get an experience boost based on your highest level. So like if you start out as a black mage and you get up to level 50, right? And then you're like, okay, I've done a lot of black mage. I'm going to turn into a monk for a while, right? So now you go monk, you're back to level 1 as a monk. But because you have a level 50 job, you get an experience boost to help you, get up higher as this monk class, you know what I mean? So it's got that going for it. Very cool. Because I don't want to really have to make a new character for every class.
That was a
I
huge problem of mine. Yeah. When I played
yeah.
MMOs, man, here's why I hate MMOs. And I could probably go on talking about this, so I won't. I'm just going to say you put a fuck ton of work into something only to find out that the grass could be greener on the other side. So you try the grass on the other side, and then you go, oh, fuck, well, I missed doing this. So you do that back and forth. Hopefully only one or two, like with one or two characters tops. And then you go and get them to the end of the game, find out, oh, they're kind of cool in their own way. And then you realize that's when the real game starts. And now you got to start doing daily grinding for just quests that no other purpose than to give you a way too inflated fucking gold supply. And with the gold, you can do things like buy stupid shit that doesn't matter. And you're going to be farming this, and you're going to do this every day. And then, or if you get in good with another guild, man, then that's when you can go raiding. And that's when you get these, well, I guess they cut it down from 40 mans, but 15-man raids. And it's like, yeah, everyone's doing their thing. And it's cool because everyone's working for 6 hours to get 30 minutes of gameplay where everyone's just in sync doing their job, and then the rest of it is just like, oh, well, just dicking around. And how much time did I just waste? I can't do MMOs anymore.
That is one funny thing about MMOs, is that there's a lot of busy work and a lot of chores.
Yeah.
But raids are like some of the most fun that video gaming as a hobby has to offer. Raids are so fucking fun, But
depends on the game.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course it depends on the quality, right?
Yeah.
Of the game, but like when it's done right. Yeah. The big thing about the one character thing in Final Fantasy 14 for me is that like when you're in a guild and everyone's got 5 alt characters, of their different classes, and so you have to remember 5 different names for every person and all that shit. And then the guild roster is all bloated by people or with people because everyone's got alternate accounts and stuff,
Yeah.
All of that is cut down, which I really like. And then also with 14, the music's nice, the graphics are nice, it's a fun game. I don't really do MMOs anymore, so I haven't been playing it for a long time, but if that's your thing, I do
I say I hate
it.
MMOs, but man, there are 2 MMOs 3 that I can think off the top of my head that I like, but right now I'm playing Sea of Thieves. So like that's technically an MMO, but because it's first person perspective with shooting, it kind of fools me into thinking it's not, so it doesn't bother me there.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's about that. I mean, there's a 15th Final Fantasy now, but I know pretty much nothing about it.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, I've heard universally great things about that game.
Really?
Yeah, except for like, I think Kotaku was like complaining about that there's like a lot of just running around and not shit that's not important, but it's like, actually it's just character building between the crew of people that you know.
From what I know about it is that they went with a pretty much completely action battle system.
That too, yeah.
So if you're into turn-based Final Fantasy, it's not that anymore. And then I've also heard that there is a lot of driving around, where you just kind of set your car where to drive, and there's a lot of waiting with that.
Oh, you don't even drive the car?
I don't think so, but maybe you can optionally. I don't know. I've also heard maybe they fixed this, but when the game first came out, I did hear when the game first came out that there is a giant chunk of plot in the middle of the game that is missing because you're expected to watch a movie. There's like a movie
what game?
Final Fantasy 15.
15?
Yeah.
What do you got to watch the Spirits Within or something?
Yeah, there's like a movie that takes place in the middle of the game. And I think I remember hearing when the game first came out that it straight up wasn't finished as far as cutscenes go.
Yeah.
And like, so there's just story shit missing from it. Now, I think if you play it now and you download the latest patch and stuff, then you'll get all of it. But yeah, so
that means if I want to buy it, I have to buy. Hopefully, they'll have made a special deluxe edition disc or something, so I know that the build I'm getting is complete. And when I play the game 20 years from now, when the Sony servers are down, I won't have half the game missing.
Right. Yup.
And that's even if I can.
So I said I knew nothing about it, but there's some things like that I've heard. Also, like, I don't know if I'm into the character designs. Like, they look like a boy band, I don't know. Or like a rock. They look like a rock band.
It's going to come with the territory, unfortunately, I think, at this point. That is very, like, those kinds of character art designs are just so, like, I think the goal was to make anime real initially a long time ago, and I think we're there, and it just doesn't look like what we thought it would look like, I guess.
Yeah, like if there was one character in a Final Fantasy game that looked like one of the guys from 15, I would like the design. But when it's all four of them,
Yeah.
it's a bit
I
much.
agree. I hear people love this character Noctis in it a lot. And like there's one other character that other people like a lot too. But like I look at the game and I go, this has Advent Children issues in that there's a bunch of weird Sephiroth clones and no character is real distinct from the other. You said the character's name. He has like a Middle Eastern kind of sounding name.
Kadaj?
Kadaj, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a cool
That
name.
was like,
but
yeah.
there's like they're samey looking. Maybe in the story they might actually have been clones of each other. I can't remember. But anyway, it's all samey and I can't distinguish which character is which without, I have to play through it to get that.
Mhm. Yeah. So I don't know about 15. Maybe I'll try it out at some point, but we're a while from there yet.
You're on
I gotta
the
play.
SMT train.
Right, I gotta get to Nocturne and then play 4 and maybe 4 Apocalypse before, and maybe Strange Journey before 5 comes out in November. So I'm probably not gonna make it.
Yeah. There was a gaming event or something that was supposed to be happening sometime close today, and I don't remember what that was. I wanted to talk about it, but I can't remember what it was. Must have not been that important.
Perhaps we can get to it next time.
Yeah,
Because that's it. There you go. There's the new
Final
half
Fantasy.
of Final Fantasy and what we know about it.
Yeah, mostly fuck all from me.
Right, but dude, 10 is so good, and I'm
That's great.
glad that I got to gush about it for a while because I was very surprised by how much I liked that game.
Yeah, I think I liked all the characters too. Like there was one letdown. I liked Kimari a lot, but he's just this weird silent Yuna's guardian type, and I was just like, man, I love halberds and tridents too much, and this guy's just like not giving me anything over here. It's just this weird silent furry.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Riku was my favorite character of the main cast.
Yeah.
And yeah. But yeah, I very, very surprised by how much I liked that game, and I'm glad I got to it when I did, because I had one regular viewer on Twitch for a long time, who actually lived kind of close by to me, but he was a regular viewer and active community member for many years, and I think it was one of his favorite games. He tuned into every stream for it, and watched all of it and really enjoyed it. And he passed away pretty recently, like just a few months ago.
Fuck, that sucks. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, so rest in peace to him. Great guy. And I'm really glad that I at least got to share that with him. Because that was
seems like such a small thing
cool
to us, maybe sometimes, but that's pretty huge. Because that's all your interaction you get with some people, and lose them, man. You kind of have to cherish what you got, and that's pretty cool that you have that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so all right.
Yeah, that's Final Fantasy. I guess we'll figure out what we're going to talk about next week.
Yeah, I think Wednesday is our new live day now. So expect live days to be Wednesdays, and the archive is all caught up. So expect archives to come out every Thursday, probably.
Sweet. You're talking about the audio recording?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that, sir.
Of course.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We are Dash Retro and Invictus Nox. You can find us on Twitter and Twitch. And we appreciate y'all hanging out.
See you later.
Later, guys. Bye. That is ended.